Hello, today I will talk about a Chinese tradition called food binding. Maybe you have heard of this, maybe you haven't, but we will learn today. Well, first of all, let's start with its origin. So it's not for certain, we don't know for sure that how or by whom it started, but we have some stories, some urban legends, some fairy tales. I will share them briefly with you. So we have Ye Xian, first of all, which is a fairy tale, and it is also called Chinese form version of Cinderella because it resembles Cinderella a lot. Actually, the plot is almost the same as Cinderella, but there was a woman in the main character in Cinderella. Cinderella itself, well, she was found by the emperor in Ye Xian because she was binding her foot, and that's why her foot was smaller than any other woman in the kingdom. So this fairy tale might have triggered people to do the same. We have a real historical figure now, Li Yu. Li Yu was one of the emperors of Tang Dynasty. He actually lived, but we don't know for sure if this story is real. So what he did was to build a golden lotus statue or a sculpture, you can say, and cover it with pearls, precious stones, gems, and such things. And he asked one of his concubines, Yao Niang, I guess, Yao Niang, to dance on it. So she, before dancing on it, she actually bound her feet in the shape of a crescent moon, and that's how after that she danced. So this is another story. We have Shou Qi Dynasty Emperor Xiao Baojian. So again, women's art of dancing was quite prevalent in ancient times, in that time. So he actually asked his wife to dance for him, and she was dancing, but she was just so elegant, so beautiful, just like Yao Niang, and the king was just mesmerized and stunned by her, and he said, "Bubu Shenglian," which can be translated as, how can I translate this? Well, step-by-step lotus. So what he meant by that is, well, there is a Buddhist goddess called Padmavati. So Padmavati was believed to have some lotus seed under her feet. So actually that was a reference Xia Baojian was making. The last common idea is that there was some poems written about binding food, so it might have alluded the practice, but again we don't know. Moving on to how did people bind their food. Well, there is a certain process, of course, but the practice differed from region to region, how they did it, or in what shape they did it, or what did they even call it. It just changed a lot. But we have some certain process, and I will talk about this process. Well, you have to warm your feet first of all to make the process easier. How are you gonna do that? With some herbs, with warm water, but also with some animal blood. Quite interesting, isn't it? Well, after warming your feet, you start the actual binding process. You curl up the last four toes of your feet to backwards, and your thumb is straight. It doesn't look very like it, but I hope you understood. So you make that kind of a shape, and you just wrap it with cotton or silk, which whatever garment you have, and after wrapping it tightly, well, every time you wrap it, it gets tighter, even more tighter. So you did this all the time, every 2 days actually. So, well, after wrapping your feet like that, you have to actually break it. You have to break your toes and upper bone of your feet to actually put it in shape. Then you put your feet in the shoe. It was painful, and actually, other than being painful, it was so easy to get infected because of the toes was just, I mean, clean. It wasn't very clean, and you could get infection very easily. Well, because you break your bone every time, and you don't let it heal, and you also wrap it so tightly, you seize the blood to actually do its job on your foot. So people had lots of different type of diseases because of that. Also, it led to some deaths as well. Very poor situation, I believe. Well, anyways, let's move on to some more positive aspect. Well, again, as I said before, it differed from region to region. Some people bound their feet in the shape of a cucumber. It was more slender than most of the people. It wasn't the most common way to do it, but some people was just making it cucumber shaped, slender, more long. So it was something. And actually, the shoe was called flower bowl when you bind your foot in a cucumber shape. Also, in general, when you bind your foot, bound feet was called lotus feet or golden lotus, just golden lotus. Well, because of the stories, actually, I think. Anyways, so it was more extreme in north than in south because I don't know, well, people just did it this way for some reason. I don't know, actually. So what this binding symbolized? Well, it symbolized a lot of things. First of all, it was considered erotic for some people. It was very important for marriage. People could marry if their feet was bound, and it was a indication of power. Upper class women did it mostly. Working class couldn't do it much because they had to work. Of course, you are the backbone of society, of economy. They couldn't just all do it. So yeah, also it was considered a norm of feminine beauty. As time passed, it became a norm, of course. Again, people did this to show their status, to have actually more power in the social class. Some lower class women did it because they wanted to marry, or some poor families did it to their eldest daughter, only to their eldest daughter. Their other daughters will just work in the fields or be servants, but this eldest daughter was raised as a lady and she didn't have to work because she was raised as a lady. So we have this. And what do I have? Okay. Well, since it's quite painful and maybe even illogical to some people, it was criticized. It wasn't always favored. But the first criticism came in 13th century by a scholar whose name Chu Ruoshui, and he said this, and I quote, "Little girls, not yet 4 or 5 years old, who have done nothing wrong, nevertheless are made to suffer unlimited pain to bind small. I do not know what use this is." He clearly objected. After that, in 17th century, some emperors tried to ban it. There was 2 attempts to ban it, but people just got used to it so much that they were just doing it, and they just couldn't stop this. But in 1912, they banned this tradition altogether. Nobody could do that. Just few people did it secretly, but again, when we come to early 21st century, it was all gone. Well, you can still find some elderly, very, very elderly women with bound feet, but it's not practiced today, and it's banned over almost a century, so even more than a century, actually. Do I have anything left? I guess no. Yeah. So, thank you for listening to me. I hope this was helpful to you. You learned something. Well, that was all from me. Have a good day.